Tonight on the Northwestern News Report, Northwestern selects its new president. We sit down with the woman making history.
Plus, Evanston leads the country with the first ever housing reparations program for Black residents. What you need to know.
Back in person and better than ever. And news a cappella groups rock campus.
And Evanston's Animal Shelter is raising money to better serve its furry residents.
Those stories and more tonight on the Northwestern News Report.
It's your news
right now. Good evening and welcome to the Northwestern News Report. I'm Jenny Ha.
And I'm Diego Ramos. Let's jump right in with our top story. Martin Shapiro's successor was named Monday, 7 months after the university president announced he will step down from his role at the end of this academic year. Now, his successor has been named. NNN's Andrew Rowan sat down with the president-elect.
Hello, Northwestern. My name is Rebecca Blank, and I am honored to be selected as your next president.
When University President Morton Shapiro steps down at the end of this year, University of Madison, Wisconsin's current chancellor, Rebecca Blank, will step into the role.
I can't wait to join you on campus and to work together.
The 66-year-old economist served in 3 presidential administrations, published a multitude of works on poverty and the low-income labor market, and was the first female professor tenured in economics at Northwestern.
In many ways, this feels like a homecoming to me.
Now she's making history at NU once again, this time as the first woman president.
Congratulations.
NNN spoke one-on-one with the president-elect about her goals on Monday.
The first thing that I want to do is really meet everyone and become more familiar with the campus, the people, the issues.
And the issues are a main point of unease at Blank's appointment for some community members.
Her kind of track record when it comes to issues facing marginalized students is definitely an area of concern to me.
On Twitter, students responding to reports of her handling of issues in Madison, such as the future of campus police, fossil fuel divestment, and diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Students are concerned because UW-Madison students are basically students of color. Are saying good riddance.
PhD candidate Nikki McDade said she wants the next president to be more accountable to community members from marginalized groups.
Part of it is working to educate herself by surrounding herself with people who have that diversity of thought.
In her current role, Blank is no stranger to protests.
I have some number of protests outside my office.
And Blank says she tries to engage.
And some groups are more interested in talking and trying to define a way forward. And some groups are a little more interested in just being oppositional, right? Protests can be fun.
I think she needs to really be, hit the ground running when it comes to, meeting with student groups, meeting with student activists.
ASG President Christian Wade says even though his term will end prior to Blank's appointment this summer, he looks forward to being part of her transition.
As well as President Shapiro, ensuring that she has a good scope of the kind of current Northwestern student body, so that way that when she comes in, she's kind of well attuned to the needs and the demands.
A new president with a long road ahead. Andrew Rowan, Northwestern News Network.
Rebecca Blank will take over as Northwestern's president at the end of this academic year. Jenny?
Thanks, Diego. Last Sunday, Illinois ended its ongoing eviction moratorium. For constituents facing housing insecurity locally, Cook County has appropriated a new round of emergency funding geared to keep renters in their homes. NNN's David DiNicola reports.
After the Great Recession was really taking hold in our community, we worked with the county and a lot of community partners and a lot of our legal aid and mediation partners in the court to put together a mortgage foreclosure mediation program.
Commissioner Larry Sefferden represents Cook County's 13th district. During the 2008 housing crisis, he worked with the county to address housing needs. Now, he's applying his expertise to the pandemic.
We said we need to put this back together. We put together a program that is modeled exactly after what we did in 2008.
We have to begin with the fact that this didn't happen because of the pandemic.
Jasmine Hatcher, Director of Housing Counseling and Education at Open Communities, works with renters and landlords to address housing insecurity across Chicago's north and northwest suburbs.
The pandemic has just highlighted how unstable our housing had been across the nation, and especially here in Illinois.
According to the National Low-Income Housing Coalition, for every 100 Illinois renters, only 39 homes available are available to those falling below the poverty line.
Our hope is that in the aftermath of this, we're going to see that there is a value to the investment of rental assistance for people who really are struggling to keep them from becoming homeless.
Commissioner Suffredin highlighted the importance of strategic preparation in order to prepare for an influx of evictions once the funds dry up.
This is like in a war where your objective changes.
Looking forward, Suffredin stresses the use of available funding to address current constituent needs.
If this money gets into our economy and recirculates within our economy, we have a better chance of recovery.
And David joins us now. David, what else are government and advocacy groups doing to help at-risk populations?
Education is really the biggest factor. People need to understand that these funds exist, how to get them, and landlords need to understand why they're important. And ultimately, these funds will provide the most impact when they're dispersed.
Thanks, David. Diego?
Thanks, Jenny. Turning to this week's pandemic news, vaccinated locals and some students are now getting a boost from a third dose of the COVID-19 vaccine. NNN's Logan Schijano has more.
Medill freshman Brooklyn Moore received her third dose of the Pfizer vaccine last Saturday, a huge relief after she feared her immunity was waning.
I was very nervous, especially coming to like a college campus where there's a lot of social events and being in in-person classes.
But now, she says,
I feel great.
Rollout of the COVID booster began in Evanston earlier this month for individuals aged 65 and older, and for those with underlying health conditions ages 18 to 64.
And while boosters are not yet available on campus, you can get one here at Walgreens, here at Jewel Osco,
or here downtown at CVS. Currently, 89% of Evanstonians have received the first dose of the COVID-19 vaccine, and 82% are fully vaccinated, numbers that Evanston Public Health Commissioner Greg Olson is quite proud of.
Just a huge number that we're really, really happy about.
Meanwhile, a breakthrough in testing technology on Northwestern's campus. Last week, a team of researchers announced the development of a rapid COVID-19 test. It can turn around results in less than 5 minutes and is 100% effective.
The test uses a minuscule version of a cantilever, which acts as a seesaw hinging in the presence of specific viral molecules.
To our knowledge, this is the first time anybody has used microcantilever and at this fast.
Dravid explains how the Northwestern test can play a role in mitigating this pandemic and other viruses down the road.
We just had a conversation with our colleagues in medical school for can we use this approach for HIV? Can we detect this approach for other pathogens?
Logan Schijano, Northwestern News Network.
Thanks, Logan. Nationally, COVID-19 cases are trending down since mid-September, according to CDC data. Jenny?
Thanks, Diego. Last week, over 7,500 qualifying students received thousands of dollars in student aid funds from Northwestern. In a press release, NU stated the one-time payment of $2,000 was provided by the federal government's Coronavirus Response and Relief Supplemental Appropriations Act and the American Rescue Plan. The school encouraged students to use their funds for costs that arise due to COVID-19, including tuition, food, and housing. The funds will not impact financial aid and are not taxable.
This fall in Evanston has brought more normalcy than we have seen in a long time. How are local businesses faring? NNN's Julia Richardson brings us an update.
Less COVID restrictions and a full Northwestern campus have Evanston bustling.
It feels like there's some energy back in the city, and that's appreciated.
Local businesses are seeing and feeling a difference.
Want to order for Sam? We came to realize business without students is just impossible.
Annie Coakley, economic developer for the downtown area, says that when it comes to COVID, Evanston has fared rather well.
We've lost a few, but I think we did a really good job and that most people hung in there.
But even with more customers, some business owners stay prepared for sudden changes in COVID protocol.
We're still not sure what it's going to look like.
Some face new challenges.
Last year, we didn't have customers. The issues we're facing this year is the prices that's going up on everything.
And others still wish to see more student faces.
Do support your local businesses because you don't want to live in a world where it's all going to be the same retail establishment wherever you shop.
Although the pandemic was difficult for several owners, it also brought a change in mentality, with more people rallying behind their local businesses.
We've seen a shift in consumer behavior where they realize that, hey, if we don't support our local businesses, they're not going to be there anymore.
But owners believe it's only up from here.
Well, we're expecting things to get a whole lot better, that's for sure.
With COVID's downfall, business in Evanston is on the upswing. Julia Richardson, Northwestern News Network.
Thanks, Julia. Asian American students writing an open letter to the university following the Atlanta shootings in March. What they asked for? Departmentalization. As the new year begins, their plea remains the same. NNN's Katrina Pham has the story.
A warm and welcoming space. That's how Asian American Studies student Abby Ju describes her experience within the program.
Only positive words, just like warm, welcoming, amazing, life-changing.
Professor Ji Yun Ye was the first faculty hired for the program when it was founded in 1999. Ye says the road has not been easy.
The reality is the university hired me to fail.
Now, members of the NU community pushing for department status instead of a program status. Why?
Departments have more power than in a university. Right? They tend to have bigger budgets. They're harder to dismantle.
Emily Munn started working at AASP this year as one of 3 administrative members. She says the small staff means juggling many different responsibilities.
Having to take all of that on is a challenge I'm willing to take on, but at the same time, I know that it can be really tiring.
Within the program itself, students reflecting on identity and seeing the world in a new way.
I have to unlearn a lot of the things that I was told, and that includes anti-Blackness within my own family, within the Asian community more broadly.
At the end of the day, program members come together to embrace Asian American community.
The community building that the program facilitates is just so wonderful.
After over 20 years, students and faculty continuing their fight for ethnic studies at NU. Katrina Pham, Northwestern News Network.
Coming up, applications are open for Evanston's reparations program. We'll tell you why there already isn't enough money to go around.
Plus, let's talk a cappella. Northwestern a cappella groups back together in harmony.
At Northwestern, we're wildcats in every way. At Northwestern, we're wildcats in every way.
Go Northwestern, break right through that. With our colors flying, we will cheer you all to go. Go you Northwestern, fight for the sweet victories, for the fame of our fair name, and go Northwestern, win that game. Go Cats!
Evanston's reparations applications are open now for Black residents who experienced housing discrimination firsthand or are the direct descendants of those who did. This first reparations initiative focuses on housing. NNN's Megan Leibowitz reports.
We did harm.
And that's a fact.
Applications are open now for a reparations program, the first of its kind in the country.
We have a moral responsibility to repair that harm.
If your application is approved, you will receive $25,000 for a home purchase, home repairs, or mortgage assistance.
We understand that $25,000 isn't going to buy somebody a house, but it's a really meaningful amount of money.
Mayor Biss says over 70 people have applied, but in a city with over 12,000 Black residents, only 16 applicants will get the green light.
We have to commit to do this in a way that will be meaningful.
This 1940 map, created by the Homeowners Loan Corporation, cautioned against giving mortgage loans to Black residents, a now banned practice called redlining.
We're never going to repair it fully.
I'm standing on the corner of Garnett and Maple, which used to be part of the redlined area of Evanston. Some students may not realize that redlined regions were closer to campus than they might think.
I'm of the firm belief that reparations do need to happen.
But it's the type of reparations that is generating controversy.
I would love to get and give cash payments to people so that they can make that own determination with their money.
Mayor Biss says next steps are up in the air, and the cannabis sales tax revenue that funds the reparations program is coming in more slowly than expected.
I think it's worth exploring alternate ways to find revenues to accelerate the filling of that fund.
Ideas for the future, redressing past wrongs. Megan Leibowitz, Northwestern News Network.
And Megan joins us now. Megan, who is eligible to apply?
There are a few different categories. The first category is people who directly experienced discrimination, Black residents, between 1919 and 1969. The second category is descendants of people who directly experienced the discrimination. And then the third category is people who experienced it after 1969, Jenny.
Thanks, Megan. Over to you, Diego.
Thanks, Jenny. Monday marked this year's celebration of Indigenous Peoples Day. The Northwestern campus sits on the homeland of the Council of Three Fire Nations, which includes the Ojibwe, Odawa, and Potawatomi. Amid growing calls to make the celebration a federal holiday, Cook County delayed a vote last week to replace Columbus Day. In 2016, Evanston became the first city in Illinois to officially recognize Indigenous Peoples Day instead of Columbus Day. After 2 years, the Black House is finally reopening. Construction, the pandemic, and shipping delays all slowed reopening the historic space. First built in 1968 in response to campus protests, the Black House now has an elevator, gender-neutral bathrooms, and wheelchair accessibility. The $4.5 million renovation is being completed by the Black-owned architectural firm Moody Nolan. The building has its grand opening this Friday. This week, Northwestern celebrates homecoming with many favorite traditions returning, including a pep rally, Peyton Norris Purple, and more. NNN's Talia Kailman has the details.
Homecoming is back with in-person events ready to welcome alumni and get all Wildcats in the Purple Pride spirit.
A marching band playing, there's going to be like student groups performing, so that's like something I'm really excited for.
This week, students vote on their homecoming Wildcats. 11 seniors from across 4 schools are on the homecoming royal court.
For me, what was really important about being on homecoming court was that I'm kind of representing 2 very small communities at Northwestern. So like human communication sciences, most people haven't heard of it. I use like Accessible NU, and I think that a lot of people don't talk about their accommodations.
I think, upholding these traditions can really give students the opportunity to work with alumni and really just be able to have these conversations about what it means to be a Wildcat.
This week's schedule of events includes the Food Truck Festival, which took place earlier today, events at the Rock where students can meet their homecoming court and grab free food and giveaways, the Student Pep Rally on Deering Meadow, a hypnotist performance in Kahn Auditorium, and more, all leading up to this Saturday when the Wildcats take on Rutgers at Ryan Stadium. Talia Kalman, Northwestern News Network.
Thanks. Let's continue the Wildcat spirit. Now over to Jenny at the monitors.
Thanks, Diego. I'm joined by Davis Johnson from Sports Night. Davis, Northwestern is off to a disappointing 2-3 start to the season and has been non-competitive against their first 2 Big Ten opponents. What is the source of the Wildcat struggles?
Well, Jenny, a big part of it is the Northwestern defense and their slow starts to games. Frankly, Northwestern is losing games in the first quarter. So far, their point differential in the first quarter is -49, and their defense has fallen off a cliff from last year, ranked in the hundreds after being one of the tops in the nation last year. And that's been the source of their struggles, and they're going to look to get that going against the Rutgers Scarlet Knights this weekend.
And moving on to this week's game, homecoming. What can you tell us about the Rutgers Scarlet Knights and their strengths and weaknesses?
Well, on paper, Rutgers is a very similar team to Northwestern, except I think that right now they're a bit more strong defensively. They started the year really well against some weaker teams, but have really struggled against teams like Michigan State and Ohio State. They'll be looking to get back into win column. They play really sound defense. Their linebackers are aggressive. They play up to the line of scrimmage, and it's going to be up to Ryan Olinsky and Northwestern offense to play sound football, run the ball, and not turn the ball over.
And lastly, just a few seconds left. What do you predict will happen Saturday?
Right now, I just don't trust the Northwestern defense enough to get wins against solid competition like Rutgers. I think the Scarlet Knights will pull it out 21-17.
Davis Johnson from NNN Sports Night, thank you so much for being here.
Finding Nemo, because everything happens way too fast, but in the end you realize it's all about family and the friends you make along the way.
If you had to describe your college experience in a movie, what would it be? We asked students in this week's edition of Rock Talk. Plus, how Northwestern is celebrating homecoming. Can I get the earpiece?
At Northwestern, we're Wildcats in every way.
Cheer you all to go. Go you Northwestern, fight for victory, sweet victory, for the fame of our fair name, and go Northwestern, win that game. Go Cats!
Acapella is back and better than ever. NNN's Ellie Skelly looks into the return of the Northwestern clubs that inspired the movie Pitch Perfect.
Acapella groups are hoping this year is going to be Acca-mazing.
We got more auditionees than a normal year.
For freshman Troublemakers member Sophie Pasqua, the more Acca people, the merrier.
I was really excited to get started in that process.
This is very different from last year's acapella season.
It was a difficult year.
This year, the joining process involved a series of in-person auditions and callbacks.
All of the groups were so nice, and they really worked hard to make the environment very safe and welcoming.
The similarities to Pitch Perfect are hard to deny.
It was surprisingly similar to the movie, and just the energy that the people bring to it's super, all the acapella groups super peppy.
With the recruitment process over, groups are beginning rehearsals. I'm here standing outside of Tech, where last Thursday the Troublemakers held their first rehearsal back. It was no disappointment. Make sure to follow acapella group's Instagram to stay updated with events and performances. This year, acapella promises to be Acca-mazing. This is Ellie Skelly reporting for NNN.
Thanks, Ellie. Make sure to check out Acapella during the upcoming homecoming celebrations and Parents Weekend.
Last Saturday, Northwestern's Activities and Organizations, or A&Os, hosting a Blowout concert, its first live concert since COVID. On the field in Welsh Ryan Arena, NNN's Elizabeth Betts has more.
Meet me at our spot, Welsh Ryan Arena, where 2,100 Northwestern students gather for A&O Productions' Blowout concert featuring Willow and Ravina. Head of the Concerts Committee, Asta Cisse, explains A&O's decision process, which begins with discussing students' favorite artists.
In the beginning, it's a lot of just
who are you listening to? Who are you obsessed with right now? But then we obviously also want to think about what everyone else wants to listen to.
Though Willow is currently on tour, she stopped by Northwestern.
Since she had just released her album, when we were in contact with her, they were kind of willing to move around certain things so that they could fit this stop in.
First year Medill student Haben Fessahazen says Northwestern students excited to see Willow broke the box office.
I didn't even pull out my laptop, just immediately on my phone went out to try to get the tickets, and I was able to get through to log into my net ID, and but after that it was just loading for hours. It was literally loading for hours.
After the crash, Cisse says A&O sought out a solution that involved pursuing physical tickets.
We explored even doing physical, printing them out. We were in communications with the North's box office people the whole time, and they were just we are gonna try to get to it, and also it was after hours.
COVID-19 protocols included setting a capacity limit at 2,100 students and requiring the use of masks. The concert was successful, with Northwestern students encouraging Willow for an encore. Students had to wait a minute for tickets, but much worth it. Elizabeth Betts, Northwestern News Network.
Thanks, Elizabeth. In the future, A&O looks to bring back in-person activities, including a winter ball, movie nights, and more.
As the temperature drops, sometimes the best way to wind down after a hard day of classes is watching a good movie.
But we wanted to know if your college experience was a movie, what would it be? So we asked you in this week's edition of Rock Talk.
I'm Olatunji Usher-Williams with Northwestern News Network, and today for Rock Talk, we're asking members of the Northwestern community if they could describe their college experience in a movie, what movie would it be?
Rock Talk.
Oh. Okay. That's a really hard question. Unfortunately, I think the movie that I'd have to go with is Mother. Now, this sounds bad because it's kind of a horror movie, but what that means basically is it starts seeming a little bit off, but generally kind of okay, and then slowly increases in stress and insanity until you have no idea what's going on anymore and you've totally lost the plot, but it's still enjoyable.
Legally Blonde right off the bat. I don't know why, I kind of feeling the Harvard vibes a little bit, the pressure of academics, kind of trying to change to fit that, and yeah.
Maybe Fast and the Furious, because everything is so ridiculously out of pace and I feel so crazily overwhelmed. Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, because it's kind of the boring Harry Potter movie, but at the same time, I think Harry Potter learns the most lessons about himself in that movie, and just overall, it's long and it's confusing, but it has the best message.
All right, if I had to describe Northwestern in a movie, I'd probably pick Finding Nemo, because everything happens way too fast, but in the end you realize it's all about family and the friends you make along the way.
Rock Talk.
If you have an idea for a future Rock Talk topic, tweet us at NNN_news. Diego, I actually don't have an answer to the question myself, but we all here at NNN watched The Devil Wears Prada last week, and that was really fun.
Oh, interesting. And for those that didn't know, The Devil Wears Prada's main character is actually an alumni from the Medill School of Journalism here at Northwestern. So there you go. And coming up, the city's new pup park. We look at where Evanston's new dog park may be.
Plus, the animal shelter is raising the wolf and expanding.
At Northwestern, we're wildcats in every way.
Northwestern break right through that. With our colors flying, we will cheer you all to go. Go you Northwestern, fight for victory, sweet victory, for the fame of our fair name and Northwestern win that game. Go Cats!
Right now, the closest dog park is in Skokie, but the City of Evanston is looking to change that. Here's NNN's Gabrielle Coriati with the latest on the disagreement over the location for Evanston's new dog park.
With 75 parks across the City of Evanston, one thing is missing that the city is working to change: a dog park.
It's also just really good for getting pets and their humans outdoors and active.
Biggs, a city engineer, is part of the team working to find the perfect location for a dog park, but it hasn't been a walk in the park.
By Cook County law, they are required to be fenced off, separated, have a security access.
Because the park needs to be fenced in, any park with other uses was eliminated as an option, and residents disagree about the park's proximity to their homes.
Anything that for me is within a mile and a half walk, I would go to with him.
Some city council members are pushing for a dog park right here on Lincoln Street Beach. But this is the only entrance, and as you can see, you have to cut through campus to get here.
If we can sort of designate certain spaces for dogs and certain spaces for people.
For Lincoln Street Beach to be turned into a dog park, the city will need to create a separate entrance and come to an agreement with the university.
Anything we do at Lincoln Street Beach is going to come with a cost that we need to make sure that we're willing to commit to.
For a Northwestern student living with her dog on campus, a dog park would definitely be a perk.
The one thing that isn't so great about being on campus is there aren't a ton of dogs around.
The location's still up in the air, looking for a new place for your pups to play. Gabrielle Coriati, Northwestern News Network.
Thanks, Gabrielle. The budget for the project currently $110,000, $85,000 of which was donated by Northwestern from the Good Neighbor Fund.
Oh, this makes me miss my dogs. Diego, do you have any pets back at home?
I do. He's a really cute schnauzer, and I miss him so much.
Yeah, I miss my pets too. For years, Evanston Animal Shelter has not had enough space. Now the shelter is working with the city to expand. NNN's Lily Wolfson reports.
The Evanston Animal Shelter is renting space and even using its laundry room to accommodate all of its furry residents. Now, the shelter is fundraising for an expansion.
We have so limited space in this facility. I mean, there's just not room for the animals that we have to take care of. And in addition, the building is old and antiquated.
Pasenko says there are weeks every summer when the air conditioning stops working, but they can't replace the HVAC system due to structural issues.
We're not ADA compliant. We don't have a fire suppression system. There are just many, many things wrong with this old building.
The Evanston Animal Shelter Association has committed to raising $1 million. Cook County has provided a $2 million grant, and the City of Evanston says it will make up the difference for any leftover costs.
It's garnered a lot of public attention, and I think a lot of people that have been here to the shelter know how limited the space are, and they're very excited to see it expand.
In 2021, the shelter has raised $100,000. Once it raises about 70% of the $1 million, it plans to launch a public campaign.
This is the quiet period of the campaign where you reach out to people that are traditionally funders of such things and ask them for larger gifts.
The City Council will vote by the end of October on the final budget for the shelter's expansion, which is expected to be around $2.5 million. In Evanston, Lily Wolfson, Northwestern News Network.
Thanks, Lily. Pasenko tells NNN that the shelter's process to fundraise the $1 million for the expansion will unfold over the next 2 years. And Diego, we were talking about pets earlier. Do you have any friends who have pets here on campus?
Not anymore, given that we're all living on campus, but we do have plans to all get a few dogs and cats when we all move off campus next year.
Adorable. And you'd adopt from the Evanston Animal
I'd like
Shelter?
to, yeah,
Okay.
ideally.
I
Very
see.
nice.
Okay.
That's all the time we have for tonight. I'm Diego Ramos.
And I'm Jenny Ha. For all of us here at NNN, stay healthy and thanks for watching.